Hi everyone, for tonight's Nightcap and review, I'm having a diet and I'll be reviewing To Gaze Upon Wicked Gods by Molly X. Chang. This is a book I received as an ARC from NetGalley, but of course I'm going to give my honest opinion. These are the tropes and these are the content warnings. I will say there are not content warnings listed in the book or on the author's website. These are things I came across to make you aware of what you will read when you read this book, just so that you're fully aware. I will say I'm giving this book 5 stars. I found it to be a very impactful read and it was something, and I'm looking forward to talking about it. Now, tonight's Nightcap and review will be a little different simply because I usually try to make this seem like I'm having a conversation with you guys and just talk enthusiastically about a book I've just read and my thoughts and my feelings and just going off my memory about that book. As bad as my memory is sometimes. But I am aware of a lot of the conversations surrounding this book and the sensitive nature of this book and how some are receiving it, and I am just not wanting to misspeak and risk diminishing anyone's thoughts and feelings on this book. So I just want to give you my review as I posted it to Goodreads, as well as the synopsis as is presented on the Zon. I know you could all get this information, but I do want to present it to you guys accurately as to how it's presented to me and my thoughts so that I don't misspeak, as it were. So bear with me. Here we go. So the synopsis, or what this book is about, is she has power over death, he has power over her. When two enemies strike a dangerous bargain, will they end a war or ignite one? Heroes die, cowards live. Daughter of a conquered world, Ring hates the invaders who descended from the heavens long before she was born and defeated the magic of her people with technologies unlike anything her world had ever seen. Blessed by death, born with the ability to pull life right out of mortal bottles, Ring shouldn't have to fear these foreign invaders, but she does. Especially because she wants to keep herself and her family safe. When Ring's gift is discovered by an enemy prince, he offers her an impossible deal. If she becomes his private assassin and eliminates his political rivals, whose death he swears will be for the greater good of both their worlds and would protect her people from further brutalization, her family will never starve or suffer harm again. But to accept this bargain, she must use the powers she has always feared, powers that will shave off years off her own existence. Can Ring trust this prince whose promises of a better world make her heart ache and whose smiles make her pulse beat faster? Are the evils of this agreement really in the service of the much greater good, or will she betray her entire nation by protecting those she loves the most? So that synopsis really drew me into this book because it had a lot of elements I do like to read right off the bat. It's fantasy. I love dark romance, and there was the tagline or a trope promoted by the author of this being a villain love interest, or the whole cast being morally gray. So that really drew me into this book, and I am glad I read it. I will say I almost did not read this book because I am aware, like I said, there's a lot of conversations and feelings about this book, and I wanted to be respectful. But the author did make a post about one of the claims that this is a colonizer romance, which was the thing that made me nervous to read this book. Yes, I like reading morally black and morally gray characters who do bad things, but we love them for it. But this is a different kind of conversation when it comes to colonizers, and I am well aware that my ancestors probably have colonized, and I am definitely trying to read books that take it from the perspective of those that have been colonized. So with the fact of where she took these stories and inspirations from, I wanted to read this book, and she did convey, or in response to that colonizer romance statement, that people who have read this book will know, having based on the ending, that that's not what this is, and that is not what book 2 is going to be. So that did convince me to read this book, and I am glad to have read it, because based on how I read this book, I would not, again, this is not to discredit anyone's thoughts and feelings about this book, and because those are valid, especially coming from BIPOC authors. I'm not trying to discredit anyone in that. But having read the book, I can see the love interest, as in, like, it's a romantic triangle, but with the colonizer gentleman, or individual, I should say, it is an interest. I personally, having read lots of romance, would not say like they were striving for a romance. And I will, in my review, I kind of address that, so I'll get to that in a moment. And with how it ended and where I think book 2 would definitely want to go, having read it, I stand by what the author says. That's where I'm going to leave that. Now onto my thoughts about this book. Again, I gave it 5 stars. So this is a very powerful book meant to look through the eyes and experiences of a girl and people who have been invaded and who are on the brink of an all-out war that could finish the job for her people. She is a race of magic wielders, while the Romans who invaded are ruled by science. When the invasion came through the portal, the war didn't last years, months, weeks, or even days. It was all done in one day. With that kind of power, it just feels like it's only a matter of time before they finish the job. What would you do to protect your family so that they are safe and put food in their bellies? What choices would you make, and what lies would you tell yourself and believe in order to live with your choices? What good are you willing to see or believe in order to trust in your enemy when he claims he wants to help your people? What would you do to prolong the illusion of peace against those who would wipe you out in a blink of an eye? And what would you do when you are finally forced to confront the truth of the situations and the choices you made? So, another trope of this book was that everyone's morally gray, and that is accurate. Every single person in this book is morally gray, making choices that they feel at the time is best for their people and having to live with those choices. And those choices may not have been good, but they believe at that time it is for the greater good. So if you love morally gray and a very complex situation with these tougher conversations, this is a really good book. And I think the final point I want to leave on, is that I just found it to be a very powerful book, which is why I gave it 5 stars, because it made me have to sit and think about what the people, my ancestors, might have had to choices they've had to make. So that's why I gave it 5 stars. Is that after this book, I really had to sit and think and ponder and wonder what choices I would make as somebody who had been colonized, and what choices I could live in these kind of situations that these characters are put into. And it was just a very powerful book. Now, I will say, I am a mood rater. I am not a mood reader, but I rate books on how they feel. And just with that feeling I was left with at the end of this book, that really made me have to sit with my feelings in it, and I found it to be very powerful. That's why I gave it 5 stars. But I will say there is a couple things in the plots I found like little holes with for me, and I would not say the writing style is perfect. This is the author's debut novel, but I still, again, am a mood reader, and that's my feelings on this book and how I rated it. Now, this book will be available April 16th. I do think a lot of people should give this book a chance. It was still a beautiful story that left a big impact on me, and I think that's the intention of the author. So I encourage other people to give it a try for themselves, and I hope everyone has a good night and happy readings.